The British telephone box is an object caught between existence and obsolescence. This icon of British culture seems pointless nowadays, but yet they exist quietly in the background to this day, in large numbers. If you walk around a city, town or village, you'll still see telephone boxes, but these are the last ones, a dying breed, and they're disappearing fast. I see them everywhere because I notice them, but you may not. There are still many thousands around, but as I mapped out my list of filming targets for this video, I had no idea that many would be already gone when I arrived. While I'll only be showcasing one or two of the designs in this video, as it's less a history of the phone box as such, but rather a look at their death, let me just spend a minute running through a chronology of BT phone boxes in the UK. The K1 was released in 1921. The K2 followed in 1926, the K3 arrived in 1929, and the K4 in 1930. The K5 came in 1933, and the iconic and most famous K6, the red phone boxes you still see all over the place to this day, in 1936. The more modern K7 was prototyped in 1962 but never rolled out, followed by the K8 in 1968. The KX100 came in 1985, of which you can still find examples out there, followed by the KX100 Plus in 1996. Most remaining phone boxes you can find on the street today are K6s, KX100s and the KX100 Plus. On a side note, Mercury installed some beautiful phone boxes too, but maybe that's one for another video. Do phone boxes have any useful function nowadays? I'd argue that they do. In many of the rural spots around the Glossop and High Peak area I stopped to film, my phone signal was minimal and sometimes non-existent. In the main though, I suppose they don't have a useful function today. According to BT, 98% of the UK's population owns a mobile phone, and calls made through its public phones have fallen by about 90% in the last decade alone. Telecommunications company Shaw said not a single phone call was made from the island of Guernsey's 22 payphones in 2025, for example. Ofcom claimed that around 5 million calls were still being made from phone boxes each year just 2 or 3 years ago. But what's the purpose of these calls? Emergencies? Surely nobody sits in a telephone box nattering to their friends anymore. At their peak in the mid-1990s, the British population of phone boxes was about 100,000. By 2004, there was just 75,000. At this time, 29,000 were profitable, 19,000 broke even, and the remaining 27,000 were losing BT money. Between 1999 and 2000, a year which saw massive acceleration in the mobile phone market, the number of calls from phone boxes dropped by 37%. In 2001, BT launched an offensive which would give customers 20% more call time if they paid for their call with a coin worth 50 pence or more. Also, that year, BT enabled text messages to be sent from their phone boxes for 10 pence as a way of attracting a younger customer. Around this time, email functionality was added for 20 pence ago. If I recall, around 600 payphones were converted to text phones by 2001. All of this did little to resurrect phone boxes, and between 2002 and 2005, BT operated a program which identified low-profit phone boxes and eyed many for removal. This has continued over the last 20 years, and the number of boxes has dramatically decreased. As of the end of March 2025, the number of remaining usable phone boxes in the UK is 13,226. The number in not full working order is 2,343. Interestingly, the number of public call box repairs completed in the previous year was 21,903. This hasn't slowed down their removal though. The cost of maintaining telephone boxes annually was about £6 million to BT in 2018. BT is responsible for repairing damage to the kiosks, including replacing glass panels and broken receivers, as well as removing graffiti, rubbish and human waste. It would seem that a much larger budget is being spent today on the removal of phone boxes. If there are 2 kiosks within 400 metres walking distance of a site, BT is allowed to remove one, as long as there's one left. But if it seeks to remove the only one booth on the site, Ofcom rule states that BT must inform the public and consult with the local authorities. The authority then has 90 days to object, which is known as a local veto. This is why you tend to see these sorts of removal notices in most of the remaining boxes that are sited in more rural and suburban areas. Between January 2023 and July 2025, BT reviewed 3,015 phone boxes to determine their fate. They decided to retain just 193 of those boxes, meaning that the other 2,822 will be removed. Whilst filming this video, I discovered that many boxes had very quickly been removed after the decision was made. A lot of them are still hanging on, but in various states of existence. This is because the final decision was made in the summer of this year. Some have no phone inside, and others are fully functional, awaiting BT's Grim Reaper. To be fair, there's always been a threat to low profitability phone boxes, and in days gone by, local communities have often fought for their existence. With this in mind, is it even worth BT repairing phone boxes when they become damaged or faulty? Some are located in high footfall areas, which means that for now they'll survive. Many of these are missing their doors and are in a disgusting state. I'd love to know how often BT address these issues. As I said, the number of public call box repairs completed for the 2024-2025 period was 21,903, with 13,226 usable boxes in existence at the end of this period. That's still a pretty staggering number, which would suggest that the maintenance programme is still very active. According to BT, the average time taken from a fault being reported to its repair is 18 days. Many phone boxes are still in their original locations with their handsets removed, like this trio I spotted somewhere on the south coast, I forget where. Others find new lives as fancy displays at places like the Cheshire Oaks Designer Outlet. Of course, many hundreds have fallen into the possession and conservation of collectors who restore them and display them proudly in their gardens. BT launched its Adopt a Kiosk scheme in 2008, and more than 7,000 phone boxes, mostly K6s, have been bought by local communities for £1 each. You tend to see them used as community libraries, but the most common ones are defibrillator housings. I suppose it provides a life-saving service and saves BT a few bob not having to remove them. Boxes like this one in Charlesworth or this one in Worneth Low are used as homes for public access defibrillators, storing the defibrillator in a well-recognised, safe, weather-protected location. Adoption of the telephone box is just £1 from BT, who provide free electricity for the first 7 years of the project for all Community Heartbeat Trust projects. The K6 box on Worneth Low has this strange word on its glass, and has done for many decades. I first documented this on YouTube 8 years ago, and since then it's gained traction in blog posts, news sites and other YouTube videos. Nobody has ever gotten to the bottom of what it actually means though. I never got to the bottom of what Clough Hub means on this box in Little Hayfield, High Peak. It's empty with no phone inside. I visited a selection of different boxes that serve different purposes. Glossop in Derbyshire is a semi-rural town which has many K6s left. Some sit in residential areas like this one on Manor Park Road. It has a sign inside indicating that its number's up. Of the two left in the town square, one has been deactivated. The other says it's preserved for future generations and has no service, but the phone inside definitely works. This one on Simmonsley Lane clearly served a small housing estate in years gone by. It sits beside a small green alongside the post box, but again, its days are numbered. Estate boxes like this conjure up memories of people who didn't have their own telephones, leaving their house to make a phone call. Broadbottom has a working box. It's a bit dishevelled and full of cobwebs, but it works and there's no removal notice. I just wonder when the last call was made from here. Down in Stockport Town Centre, there are still a few KX100 Plus series boxes. This one on the Peel Centre is disgusting. It has no door, but still works. Down on Mersey Square in the shopping centre, there's another 4 that all work, but again, they're mainly used as toilets. I think the cleaning notice here is somewhat redundant. Holdsworth Square in Reddish had a set of K6s, but only one remains today. I did photograph a street hub in Manchester recently, which doubles as a new charging point, defibrillator and payphone, and these are the devices it'll be replacing telephone boxes, but in much smaller numbers. Many remaining usable phone boxes are somewhat unusable. They're disgusting to be honest. They're unclean, smashed, and the removed doors leave them open to the elements, and many are used as public toilets. Phone boxes have always been an obvious location and target for a variety of crimes, being both easily accessible and relatively private. Naturally, they're a target for vandalism, but a sex offender used to regularly call a phone box to target passing school children in Littlehampton. In Nottingham, some boxes outside the Bridgeway shopping centre had to be removed after it was reported that in 2018 more than 3,000 calls were being made from them a year, mostly by drug dealers. Phone boxes have always been attractive to people making hoax calls to the emergency services too. Reports of fires resulted in fire crews turning up to discover the call was a malicious hoax. BT ended up monitoring the most targeted phone boxes, as well as putting up posters highlighting the dangers of hoax calls, which eventually led to a huge drop in calls by the early 2000s. In 2004, for example, there were 155,000 cases of vandalism to phone boxes nationally, costing BT £3.4 million. Many of these incidents involved the theft of the cash box. Then there's the more stranger and cretinous activities. Don't you love that word? 180 incidents of people being deliberately locked in phone boxes were recorded between 1993 and 1995, a new craze amongst teenagers apparently. Some of the more sinister activities involved blowing phone boxes to smithereens. A spate of incidents like this took place in the 80s and 90s. I've no doubt that the 2026 phone box stats from BT will be dire. You can expect another couple of thousand boxes to be removed, that's for sure. But does anybody really care? Like many pieces of iconic history, is it only the enthusiasts that are sad to see them disappear? If they bring BT little revenue, cost a lot of money to fix, and everybody has a mobile phone, then the fate of the British phone box is already sealed.